Hello book lovers and welcome back to my channel, or if you're new here, I'm Beth and this is Boo's Book Nook. We are officially a quarter of the way through the year already, which is crazy how much time has flown. So today I'm going to be talking about my top books of the year so far. Some stats for you mathematicians out there. So far, I have read 39 books, and my goal for this year is 75, so I am well on the way to reading that many books. In January, I read 10 books. February, I read 11 books, and March, I read 14 books. So from January to March, I read a total of 35. April up to now, which currently is the 17th of April, I have read 4 books, and I've DNF'd 3 books. I am in a major April slump. Major slump. But we're not going to talk about that right now. I have read a real mix of books, top genres being fantasy, closely followed by historical fiction and general fiction, with a sprinkling of crime and thrillers in there too. I actually haven't read any romance novels yet this year, but I usually do read the romance novels around the summertime or Christmas time. There'll probably be some of those books coming up further into the year. Out of the 39 books I've read this year, I have a top 7. Random number, I know, but these are my 7 favourites that really stood out when I was looking on Goodreads at the books that I have read. I've had 8 5-star reads so far this year, which is incredible. And I've had 2 5-star series that I have read. Hence why I think there are so many 5 stars I've already read. I am quite eager to give out 5 stars. To give it a 5 stars, I have to feel the emotions. It makes my heart flutter. I cry. I'm engaged and I don't want to put the book down. I don't always class 5-star reads as perfection in writing. There may be imperfections in the grammar, or a plot point isn't quite 100% perfect. But if that book has made me feel so many feelings and I just love that world and I'm engaged, then I'm more likely to give it a 5-star read. For example, Fourth Wing by Rebecca Yarros. Yes, it is not perfect by any means. It has a lot of flaws. It does, and I admit that, but I rated it 5 stars because I binged it. I loved it. I laughed. I cried. The romance, the characters, all of that mood and atmosphere that it creates has made me give it a 5 stars. I also have 3 books that I rated between 4 and 5 stars, which I thoroughly enjoyed and I want to mention in this video as well. I'm going to start with those that were 4 stars. The first book was If We Were Villains by M.L. Rio. This book is a dark academia book that follows a group of students who are studying drama, specifically Shakespearean acting and his plays. And they perform different things, and they are in their final year of college, of university. And things go wrong. There is a tragic death where one of the students is found brutally murdered. And so we then go on this journey to find out what has happened. It was so good. I really enjoy M.L. Rio's writing. You are really engaged with her writing. She uses language that's so intellectual that it suited this book so well because it had that Shakespearean twist to it, where there were quotes from plays of Shakespeare. And I loved that even more because I love theatre. And so I understood the references. I really engaged with that. It was so twisted and gothic. And so if you're looking for that dark vibe, definitely 100% go for that one. My next honourable mention was this book, The Ragpicker King by Cassandra Clare, and this is the second book in the Chronicles of Castlane series, the first one being The Swordcatcher. And I've spoken about this book a couple of times on my channel, and it follows the main characters of Prince Connor and Kell. And Kell is Prince Connor's body double, Swordcatcher, who will go out into those dangerous situations to protect Prince Connor so he doesn't end up dying or anything. This gives Six of Crow duology vibes by Leigh Bardugo, with that whole gang politics, dark Victorian London-esque vibe. Even though I know this isn't set in Victorian London, it has that sort of vibe about it. Cassandra Clare, whilst this book was a little slow in the beginning. It really built up. It was a lot of info dumping at the start of this book and world building, which is great because it really immerses you into that world. But I did find it tricky to get into, hence why I didn't give it the 5 stars. But once I got near the halfway mark, I was in there. I was picking that book up and wanting to read it every second of the day because she hooks you in. She shows you what Castellane looks like. She shows you what the characters look like. There are multiple POVs in this book. There are multiple love interests, and I ship the characters so much. That's the main thing about this book I loved, was the character development and just the story and the plot around the characters. And I know that the love interests were a subplot to this book, but I ate that up. I was hooked, and the way it ended, I need the 3rd book now, please, because it was glorious. My final honourable mention is Sunrise on the Reaping by Suzanne Collins. This was one of my most anticipated reads for this year, and let me tell you, it did not disappoint. This is in the Hunger Games world, and it's the 5th book that Suzanne Collins has released in this world, and this actually follows Haymitch's story, and we get to know how Haymitch is the way he is and why he is the way he is because of everything that happens to him when he was younger. When he is in the 50th annual Hunger Games. The 50th is a special year in the Hunger Games. They take on double the amount of tributes than they usually do. So there are 48 tributes in this games. So 47 must die. This was brilliant. While it wasn't perfectly executed, hence the not 5 stars, it was so nostalgic. I read the 3 Hunger Games books, the Hunger Games trilogy, when I was a teenager. I just love the world. It's so nostalgic, and being in there again was lovely. It was a bit chaotic in some points, where there'd be a period of time where nothing really happens and then everything happens, and it's a fast-paced book. I binged it. That is my last honourable mention. Now, on to my true favourites of the year so far, and there are some good ones in here. The series I read near the start of the year was one that I've had on my TBR for a long time, and I've seen a lot of booktubers recommend this series. It is a YA dystopian style book series, the Prison Healer series by Lynette Noni. So I didn't give them all 5 stars. I gave the Prison Healer, the first book, a 5 stars, and the last book 5 stars, but in the middle, 4 stars. Overall, I'd say this is a 5-star series. I loved this. I thought it was such a clever concept and so interesting. This follows Kiva, who is in Zalendov prison working as the prison healer. This is a notorious prison where there's only really one way out, and that is via the incinerator. It's a brutal prison for criminals all across the world here. And one day, the rebel queen turns up at the prison as a prisoner. But she's really ill, and to prove herself, she has to do a series of challenges, but she can't because she's ill. So Kiva steps in for her and takes part of these impossible challenges. There are twists, there's mysteries, there are things I did not see coming at all. Towards the end of this, I was shocked. I did not see it coming. There is a slight love interest that starts in this book as well, which... glorious. Lynette Noni writes, as I've said for all the other writers, brilliantly. Lynette writes in that writing style that I love, with beautiful language, the figurative language that describes the places they're in. So you can really imagine this dark, dank, derelict prison that is just grimy and horrible, that's full of death. Overall, as I was saying before, the series is just so well executed. The plot throughout, they take twists and turns, and actually you wouldn't expect what happens in the final book compared to the first book. You don't see it coming. Gilded Cage had a bit of a middle book syndrome issue. Overall, thoroughly enjoyed it. I would definitely recommend this for you to read. Recently, I have discovered a new favourite author. And if you've watched some of my other videos or some of my TikToks, you will know exactly who this author is. And that is Kristin Hannah. I have recently read 2 of her books. I've read The Nightingale and The Women, and these are 2 historical fiction books. And let me tell you, they are now my favourite bar The Book Thief by Marcus Zusak, because that is the ultimate favourite book. But these are my favourite historical fictions. Kristin Hannah is a genius. I sobbed so hard, happy sobs and sad sobs, through both of these books. I was so in there. I did not want them to end. And because they're historical fiction set in wars, you know there's going to be a bit of tragedy. So Nightingale is set in France when it is occupied by the Nazis, and it follows two sisters and their journey through that. It was heartbreaking, and this is based on true stories, and I think that's why it gets me so much, is because this happened. Yes, it may be a little more over dramatized because it's a book and you want to engage your audience. It was fantastic. If you haven't read this book, you need to, because this reminded me why I love historical fiction so much. When it is executed properly and an author has done their research, they know what they're talking about and they know how to write well, it's amazing. It's incredible. And that's what Kristin Hannah does. The Women is also historical fiction set in the Vietnam War, but it follows the women that are in the Vietnam War and the troubles that they face because people didn't think women were actually involved in the war. And this is also heartbreaking. Oh my God, this broke me, but in such a good way. My husband came in when I was reading this book and I was full on sobbing. I think he thought someone had actually died in my life because of the way I was sobbing. It really opens your eyes because I didn't know much about the Vietnam War. And once again, yes, this is fiction. Yes, it's not 100% fact. But there are, of course, elements. It's based on true stories and it's shocking. Stunning, 6-star. You have to read these. And finally, alongside Kristin Hannah being my top reads of the year, The Powerless Trilogy by Lauren Roberts. And I know you're going, ugh, yeah, obviously, everyone's talking about that. Yes, it's being talked about for a reason. I recently reread the whole series before the release of Fearless on the 8th of April, and I remembered why I loved that series so much. It was stunning. This is a series that, yes, Lauren Roberts doesn't write perfectly. It is not a literary work of godness. That doesn't even make sense, but you know what I mean. But the vibe, the atmosphere, the characters, just the situations that happen, the plot throughout the whole books, the subplots, just the whole generic overview of this series is 5-star plus. This series follows the kingdom of Ilia during a really hard time. A while ago, there was a plague that wiped out a lot of people, and with this plague, it brought some powers. And then, thus, the elites were born. These elites could have all sorts of powers, like a brawny. They are super, super strong. They have a vault, which work with electricity. There are powers where you can clone yourself and just duplicate yourself around. There are powers where you can go invisible. There are powers where you can turn into animals. Basically, there are powers for everything that you can think of. Then you have the next step down, which are the mundanes. These people still have slight powers, but they're not as intense as those elite powers. So, for example, it could be supersonic hearing. You can hear what's happening in a few rooms down. It enhances your senses. Then you have the ordinaries. They have no powers whatsoever. And you can probably guess who the king of Ilia blames for the diluting of the population, the killing off of elites, and the plague in general. Yes, he blames the ordinaries, and he starts slaughtering them, getting rid of them, banishing them from his kingdom. This series, it has my heart, and I think this series is the reason that I am in the biggest slump. But someone has informed me on TikTok that there is going to be another novella. Yes, please. Yes, please. There you have it. They are my top reads of 2025 so far, and I'm on a roll. I wonder how many more 5-star reads I'm going to get this year, because I feel like I've been really lucky already with the books that I've picked up. And I think most of the 5-star books were series, so you can properly immerse yourself in them, or it is a historical fiction, which is one of my favorite genres. So there is a theme. I have a bit of a niche here. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know in the comments what your favourite reads of the year so far have been. I'm really interested to know, and let me know if you've read any of the ones I've read and if you like them too. Make sure to like and subscribe, and I will see you soon for another video. Bye!